Hello, CWSF finalists. Thanks for tuning in. We have an amazing opportunity today. First, I'm very excited. We get to ask your questions about space and space exploration to a veteran Canadian Space Agency astronaut, Dr. Robert Thirsk. Thank you for being with us today, Dr. Thirsk.
Oh, my pleasure.
Let me quickly run through the introductions. My name is Cyril Mani, and I'll be hosting this conversation. I'm studying aerospace engineering at McGill University, and I presented rocket propulsion at the Canada-wide Science Fair in 2019. And it's people like our guest today that inspired me to get into the space sector. So it's truly the honor is mine. And as for our guest today, the career of Dr. Robert Thirsk is an amazing Canadian story. As an engineer, physician, aquanaut, and astronaut, he has achieved many lifetime of successes. Having studied across Canada, he counts in his alma mater, McGill University, and the University of Calgary, of which he was chancellor, and obtained his master's in science and his MBA at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Dr. Thirsk embodies what it means to be an explorer by continuing to push back the frontiers of human knowledge and experience. Through previous participation in scientific, medical, and engineering research, he is enabling missions for future astronauts to deep space destinations, as well as bringing down-to-earth benefits to global society. He is also the only astronaut that follows me back on LinkedIn. So once again, thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Thirsk. So the first question I have for you today comes from Ian Forsyth of grade 6 from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. He is wondering, how do you feel physically in space, and then how does that compare to once you return to Earth?
The first 2 or 3 days of spaceflight are a little bit difficult, and that's because the human body is adapting to this strange new weightless environment. So the first thing I noticed on my first flight was I felt a little bit out of sorts, a little bit motion sick. And that's because of my inner ear, which is where the balance mechanism is in the human body. It felt a little bit out of sorts in this new environment. So most astronauts will feel a little bit of stomach awareness. They might sweat, have a pale skin coloration, and several astronauts will in fact vomit during the first day or two. The good news is that all of this goes away after the brain adapts to the new space environment. There's also a shift of body fluids from the lower parts of our bodies up to our chest, our neck, and our head as well. So if we look in the mirror, we'll notice that our jugular veins are distended, that our facial appearance has changed. We have a puffier looking face, and we also feel this constant nasal congestion or sinus congestion that's going on there as well. But besides these physical changes, there's also the psychological changes as well. And I, on my first flight, realized I was fulfilling a childhood dream of flying in space. And I spent the entire time flying around the spacecraft like Superman or jumping around like Spider-Man. It's an amazing feeling. Going back home, everything that I just described operates in reverse. So there is motion sickness again for the first day or two after you get back home, a little bit of unsteadiness, a little bit of low blood pressure. I needed someone right at my side holding onto my arm to keep me steady for the first day or two. After about, maybe 6 weeks back on the ground, I felt normal again, that I had all the endurance and that I needed to get through a day at work or even go for a jog as well. But it's a great physical and emotional experience to fly in space.
And that is why we have people in perfect physical health like you to do these missions to come back healthy again. The second question we have is from Miss Brittany's kindergarten class from Terry Fox Elementary School in Bathurst, New Brunswick. They are asking, why do you have to wear a spacesuit in space?
Our spacesuit helps to protect us against the harsh environment of space. It seems like everything out there in space is trying to make life difficult for astronauts. So I'm talking about a hard vacuum, which means an absence of air. If I tried to take a breath in into my lungs, there'd be nothing there to breathe in. I'm talking about extremes of temperature. When we're on the sunny side of our orbit, the temperatures are plus 125 degrees Celsius, which is higher than the boiling point of water. When we're 45 minutes later on the dark side of the planet, then temperatures drop to minus 100 degrees Celsius, which is colder than the coldest winter we've ever experienced in Canada. And then there's also cosmic radiation, and then of course weightlessness and several other factors. So the spacesuit actually protects us. Inside the space cabin, the atmosphere and the environment is similar to what it is here on Earth. But if an emergency situation were to occur, if there should be a hole in the hull of the spacecraft and the spacecraft depressurizes, then the spacesuit and the backpack that I'm wearing on my back will provide me with the oxygen that I need, with the temperature control that my body desires, and it provides some protection against ionizing radiation as well. Maybe the last thing to say is that in space, we tend to lose objects like pens and eyeglasses. So we have a lot of suit pockets, a lot of Velcro, a lot of tethers on our spacesuits where we can affix all these little objects so that we don't lose them.
So it's a bit like a personal spacecraft in space that's protecting you and providing all the necessary measures for survival.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's probably very true to say for the big, white, bulky spacesuits that we wear when we go outside our spacecraft to perform what we call an EVA or a spacewalk when we are assembling or repairing a spacecraft. It is very true that we, in our big white spacesuit, are spacecraft.
Amazing. Thank you for your answer. Madame Robinet is asking from her sixth year de l'école Saint-Michel, Leamington in Ontario. Dans quel moment, in French, lors d'une mission, avez-vous eu le plus peur et pourquoi?
Tiens, les vols spatiaux sont risqués. Un accident peut survenir à tout moment et les astronautes sont plus préoccupés par le lancement et la rentrée dans l'atmosphère lorsque de grandes quantités d'énergie sont gagnées ou perdues. Les astronautes craignent également de se tromper dans l'espace. Les missions spatiales sont difficiles. La marche dans l'espace, la recherche scientifique et les opérations robotiques sont des défis et de nombreuses personnes dépendent de nous pour fonctionner correctement. Et nous nous entraînons donc à plusieurs reprises avant notre mission pour gérer les situations de routine dans l'espace, ainsi que les lancements, l'atterrissage et les situations d'urgence.
C'est pour ça que s'entraîner, comme vous dites, est si important. On n'a pas peur quand on s'entraîne tellement et on sait ce qui nous attend. Merci.
Oui, exactement.
From grade 7 and 8 class of Jacket River School in Bellevue, New Brunswick, what education, courses, or special training is required to become an astronaut one day?
Well, I think that many of the people who are listening today are already taking the first step on the step to become an astronaut or have a career in space, and that is to get a good science education in middle school or in high school. I would say that everyone must actually go off and get a university education as well. And I wouldn't want anyone to think that there's one path to becoming an astronaut. There's many paths. There's 100 different paths that lead to a career in space. So my advice is to follow your passion, follow your strengths in determining what that is. What I would say, though, is that a university background in any science discipline, any engineering discipline, aviation, healthcare, and recently even in teaching and education would be helpful as well. It's a competitive process, and all of the great astronauts that I know have more than one university degree. So I would say a second university degree would be important to consider as well. Experience in laboratory settings. In addition to the technical skills that we're interested in astronauts, spacewalking, robotics, rendezvous skills, we're also looking for people who have particular personality traits as well. So we're looking for people who have good self-care skills, teamwork skills, followership, leadership, and cross-cultural skills as well. So I would encourage the young people listening today to get involved in student government, get involved in volunteer work in your community, try to work on in team settings with people who are not exactly like you, who have different perspectives, who maybe even come from a different cultural background as well. Those kinds of skills coming together as a team to accomplish a task, those are the kinds of things that a modern day astronaut needs. And maybe the last thing to say is that, as you already mentioned a minute ago, Cyril, is that health is important as well. You don't have to be fit like an Olympic athlete to fly in space, but you do have to have very good health, and you need to be able to do some of the more physical, more challenging tasks in space, like EVA or spacewalking, which is very, very demanding. And then also some of the emergency procedures that we follow in case there is an accident with our habitat or with our spacecraft require brute strength and good aerobic conditioning as well. So I would say avoid those negative habits that would tend to hurt your health or hurt your physical fitness.
Mm-hmm. So education, volunteering, and physical fitness. It sounds like to be an astronaut, you live a healthy life, and it's a very good path to take.
Yes, for any profession.
Absolutely. And if you mind, the other question that we have is from the Science 7th class of TA Norris Middle School in Peace River, Alberta. What are some common tasks you participate in while in space? And if there was no salary involved, would you still participate in space exploration out of interest?
Well, there's no such thing as a common day in space or a routine day in space. Every day is a little bit different, and that's why we enjoy the profession, why we enjoy the job. We live according to Greenwich Mean Time, which is like the time in London, England. We typically get up around 7 o'clock in the morning and begin work about 8 o'clock. And then we'll work through to about 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. in the evening. And the kind of work that we do is largely today, it's research in a variety of fields, similar to the science fair projects that you see at a Canada-wide science fair. So plant biology, animal biology, human physiology, fluid physics, combustion science, medical research, cancer research, and technology demonstrations in robotics and in artificial intelligence as well. So it's a wide variety of research that we do. Living aboard a spacecraft, we need to take care of the spacecraft in the same way that we do housekeeping at home. We do housekeeping in space as well. So we clean off the fans, we wipe down the walls every few days or so. We manage the trash and make sure that everything looks neat and tidy. We manage the inventory. If I need to find a piece of equipment, I need to know where it is, where the tool is that I need to conduct my or perform my work. We also have to exercise because, as I mentioned a minute ago, the body deteriorates with time spent in a weightless environment. We work out for 2 hours every day. 1 hour of that is devoted to aerobic exercise, which is exercise that benefits the heart and the blood vessels. So we have a treadmill and a stationary bike on board our spacecraft. And then the other hour is devoted towards muscle fitness or maintaining the strength and the mass of our muscles. So we have a barbell-like machine that helps us to exercise our upper body and our lower body. Obviously, a barbell would not work in a weightless environment, but we have a machine with a large bar on it, which has a different form of resistance that allows us to do all the exercises in space that we'd be able to do at a conventional gym back on Earth. We have 3 meals a day, of course, and we try as much as possible to eat together as a crew, share the stories of how the day went, and talk about the future and where we think we'd like to be in the future, where civilization should go. Usually I have 2 or 3 hours in the evening before bedtime, and that's when I get on the phone to talk to my loved ones, my family members, my friends at home, and stay in touch with them. We have email, so I can stay in touch with friends through email, listen to music, and then just relax and get ready for the next day of work. So every day is a little bit different, but A lot of the work, most of the work that we do today in space is devoted towards research or innovation.
Hmm. Sounds like an amazing day-to-day life. And considering the passion that goes into such a work, would you consider maybe even pursuing this career if no salary was involved in such a
Yes, with a capital Y. Yes. It's given me so much enjoyment, a sense of fulfillment. It allowed me to represent my country on an international stage. It fulfilled a childhood dream that I had beginning in grade 3 when I first encountered the astronaut program, thanks to a teacher who wanted to spark our interest in science and technology. So yes, it fulfilled so many of my personal ambitions. I would certainly do it for no pay.
well, with the quality of sacrifices and efforts it requires to get to the level that you achieved, it definitely has to be a passion and ingrained in yourself and in your identity. So I totally understand. Our next question comes from Madame Kim Malouin, class of École Saint-Joseph in Port-Meunier in Quebec. They're asking, what are the major differences between living on Earth and living in space?
La grande différence, absolument, c'est l'apesanteur. On flotte dans l'espace et pour cette raison, c'est important de entraîner le corps, de combattre les effets physiologiques de l'apesanteur. Et aussi, nous avons la chance de voir tout le monde par la fenêtre et pour augmenter notre perception et les priorités de civilisation. C'est une forme de ouvrir comment on pense de la civilisation et le futur du monde.
Très bien dit, très poétique. Merci. And now I have a few personal questions, if you don't mind, regarding first the ways of garnering interest in space, and the second regarding how you manage your time as an astronaut. So my first question is, what have you seen to be the most effective way of garnering interest in space exploration, not only with people in STEM like our finalists, but the general public who don't necessarily have any formal scientific education?
Yes, not everyone is like me. Not everyone is like you. Not everyone is interested in STEM matters or has a science background. Uh, I, for example, would come home from my 2 space flights and like to talk about some of the results of the research, some of the results of the experimentation that we did in space, in fluid physics or biology that I performed in space. And not everyone was really that interested. But what I can say is that. Uh, Everyone is interested in the artistic aspect of spaceflight. Everyone has a sense of awe, a sense of wonder that people can actually live and work in space. So my recommendation to the young people is to appeal to the public sense of wonder. For example, the Hubble Space Telescope. Some of those images that the Hubble telescope has taken are mind blowing. They've opened up what the universe is all about. It's given us a different perception of what civilization is and what the universe is all about. So appeal to some of the sense of wonder. Same thing for the Curiosity and Perseverance rovers on Mars. Some of the imagery that they've taken of the Martian landscapes are wonderful. I'd also suggest that we appeal to the public's spirit of exploration, and in particular, the human drama associated with exploration. When I was young, I enjoyed studying the early Canadian explorers, so the Indigenous peoples, La Vérendrye, Simon Fraser, Sir Alexander Mackenzie. It's because the obstacles, the barriers that they had to overcome in order to explore new territories appealed to me, to the basic instinct of survival and exploration. I'd also recommend that to communicate the wonder of science and the wonder of space exploration, tell your story. The public, the media are interested in you as a Canadian youth with dreams, particularly with audacious dreams of careers in science or careers in space. So tell your story. People are interested in listening to that. How you're currently directing your educational path, why you chose a particular science fair project, what you do in your extracurricular time, and how you're using your vacation time to pursue a career dream. The public and the media, the politicians are interested in that story. So use social media like Twitter and Instagram. Tell your story. You might want to consider writing an article or an opinion piece for your school newspaper about space or about science, and maybe even your local newspaper as well. That's the way to convey your interest in science, and maybe we'll get a little bit more innovative culture and STEM culture in the years to come if you can help out.
So we all have a role to play in garnering space interest. It's nice to see that we truly can have an impact as well as students by sharing our experience. And I particularly resonate with the art part because visuals do impress human brains, whatever the language they speak or culture they come from. And I'm very excited to see what the James Webb Telescope is going to bring to us later this year. Really excited to look forward to that. My second question relates to the experience of a lot of our young finalists, myself included, that spend considerable amounts of time working on their side projects as well as their own education while trying to experience life as a young Canadian student. And as you've achieved so many different things and have gone to so many different great lengths to be in the position that you are today, how have you managed to live a balanced lifestyle both professionally and personally?
I think for a person with my interests, my abilities, that being an astronaut is absolutely the best vocation, the best career that I could have had. But you don't get something for nothing. There's always sacrifices to be made. And unfortunately, in the case of the astronaut, it's not the astronaut herself or himself who makes the sacrifices. Often it's the family members. And it's just because of the training that we're involved in. I trained for many, many years prior to my space station expedition flight, and only half of that time was I at home. The other half of the time I was traveling in Canada, the United States, Germany, Japan, or in Russia. You need to do that in order to prepare for an international space expedition. And what that meant, of course, is that on many occasions, because I was away for weeks at a time, I missed birthdays, I missed baseball games, I missed hockey games that the family was involved in. So for a high demanding profession such as astronautics, it's not work-life balance, but it's more work-life integration. So when I do come home, I devote my time to my children, to my family, to my friends, and make sure that the time that I have is quality time as well. One other point to make is that it's really important, no matter where I am, whether I'm at home or whether I'm on travel, to take care of my body and my mental health as well. And so every day, religiously, I eat well, I get plenty of sleep, and I exercise every day. And I have a lot of young people come up to me and say, you know, I want to be an astronaut, or I'd like to be a ballet dancer, or I'd like to be a politician, and I'm working 16 hours a day. Well, they're not going to be a very successful astronaut, ballet dancer, or politician if they're doing that, because you've got to take care of your body and your mind if you wish to soar with the eagles. You can't do it without building up that reserve, without building up that resilience. So that's part of self-care, I guess, is what I'm saying, is one way of making sure that you can have a somewhat integrated or a balanced life as well. If you don't do that, you're not on a path to success.
That's a very, very good perspective. And it's something that we're not exposed to, I feel like, in our generation, at least mine, where we're surrounded by, this culture of working really hard, and especially through my engineering degree, a lot of restless nights. But it's interesting to see that, if you want to get to a certain level, you have to push yourself while maintaining yourself. So thank you for that comment. These were all the questions I had today. So thank you a lot for your time. It was an honor once again to meet you and be able to ask these questions on behalf of my finalist friends. So if you have any last remarks that you want to say to our CWSF finalists, please don't hesitate to.
It's an honor to be with you today. Congratulations on being finalists at the Canada-wide Science Fair. This is a tremendous program. I've been involved in the Canada-wide Science Fair, but also in regional and school science fairs as well. And just to see the spark of excitement in young people's faces as they present their projects, and also the glow of pride in family members and friends as well when you do present your product, your projects is very heartwarming as well. You are the foundation to Canada's future in science and engineering and in healthcare and in space as well. So well done.
Thank you, Dr. Thirsk.
Goodbye.